us today for today's webinar, Practical AI for SMEs, Real-World Applications for Business. I'm Scott Lindsay. I'm a Senior Trade Specialist with the U.S. Commercial Service. The U.S. Commercial Service is the government's trade promotion agency. Our office is based here in Indiana, so our job is to help Indiana companies export. We connect companies to U.S. embassies and consulates all over the world. The reason we're here today is because AI is changing business. Whether you want to save time, improve customer service, make better decisions, or particularly for us to explore new markets, AI it's an important tool. It's becoming more important. You might ask yourself, how does AI and exports connect? And I think that's a great question. AI is an administration priority initiative. Trump issued an executive order about it. So to further that initiative, the Department of Commerce has created a national AI center out in San Francisco to help American AI companies expand their reach into global markets. But before we get started, I'd like to thank a couple of the organizers that helped make today's webinar possible. First, again, thank you to the Indiana District Export Council and especially its chair, Andrew Reinke. He was instrumental in helping us promote this event, and we really appreciate him and the DEC's continued partnership. Thanks, Andrew.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I love you. You guys are so good. It helps.
Well, likewise.
I'd also like to thank Purdue University for partnering with us for today's webinar. We've had a great relationship with Purdue over the years, and we're grateful for their willingness to share their expertise with Indiana businesses. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speakers, Dr. Mohit Tawarmalani, who is the Executive Associate Dean of Purdue University's Mitch Daniels School of Business, and he's the Academic Director of the Krenicki Center. Joining him is Dr. Bruno Ribeiro, Associate Professor of Computer Science at Purdue University. Mohit and Bruno, thank you both for joining us here today, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Scott, for organizing this. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Scott. What we will do is I'm going to start by sharing some slides. If you can give me an indication whether you can see those.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see them.
Great. So today our plan is to talk about unlocking AI for small and medium enterprises. Thanks, Scott, for organizing this event. I and Bruno, we will be conducting the session and talking about the way we see some of the ways in which AI can unlock value for our small and medium enterprises. In a way, we think of this as the Gutenberg moment, where a printing press has been produced. The idea is, right now, I think a lot of companies are thinking of it as the early days of printing press, when more and more copies of the books that were already existing started getting made, and scribes and other people started losing positions because scribing was something that could be done easily. But as the context evolved, people started writing more books, started finding more uses for the printing press, and so on and so forth. So our whole hope today is to have a discussion and some ideas around what can be used in AI to unlock more value, create more opportunities for businesses, and steer the conversation towards those type of things. So Scott already mentioned, I'm Mohit Tawarmalani. I lead an academic center called Krenicki Center for Business Analytics, and what we do at Purdue is building in the business school. We are trying to build skill sets that allow students to unlock AI for these businesses. Partnering with us today is computer science, and Bruno, if you can say a few words, and we can get started.
Yeah, I'm Bruno Ribeiro. I'm associate professor in computer science. I work with AI, and I'm also the director of AI Foundry Initiative.
And so today we wanted to sort of begin with this being a U.S. Chamber of Commerce sort of sponsored event. We thought we'll start with something. There is a report out from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that talks about the mechanisms of firm growth that are being used in small and medium business enterprises. And there are various mechanisms by which we think AI is sort of entering in that space. I think product innovation, which is less talked about often, then there's process innovation, and then marketing. I think these are three areas in which there's a lot of growth in terms of the use of AI. Right here, I'm actually pointing to a coffee, Henry's House of Coffee, which used AI to sort of create a vision application so that they could squirt coffee with some water, which made their processes a lot better. So process innovation where you couldn't sort of have a person constantly checking and adding water when needed. A simple AI system with Arduino processors was able to do that, and they talk about this in some detail. So as we look at these small enterprises, the study sort of says that the growth, there's 58% of small businesses are using AI in one form or another. Already in 2025, I'm sure this number is growing as we are talking in 2026. But what I want to draw our attention to is the fact that the kind of usage that is happening in this space. So 44% of the businesses say that they are using Gen AI chatbot. 20% use AI for coding related activities, and 16% are sort of talking about image creation, perhaps for marketing, copy, and others. So with that adoption statistics, we thought that we would begin our conversation today by talking about what are opportunities that you should be thinking about as you adopt AI in these ways. And so perhaps we will begin with some simple questions. And so let's think about AI chatbots. If you've sort of experienced with these chatbots, you would probably realize that if you ask the same question again or on a different day, then you're going to get a different answer. And one of the things that, at least for me, I realize when I'm using chatbots is if it's not the answer I want, then I would probably close the session and go back at it the other day. So I think consistency is not something that we can expect right now. We are also looking at this as, is this the right tool for the business process? And are you exposing your processes and your data to third-party AI? And what is the use of that? And what are some of the things that are happening in that space? Bruno, did you want to talk a little bit about what you think this adoption, what are some of the questions that you would like to ask some of our participants today to at least think about as they are adopting AI in different parts of their work life?
Yeah, so thanks, Mohit. That's a good question. One question I think a lot of folks are concerned when we talk to industry is the use of cloud services. You don't really know exactly what they're doing with the data. They do have some agreements, right? Sometimes, but it's also a bit unclear with all the legalese language, because it's not only like your training data, but also your whole process can be exposed, and then there are questions about it. And all big industries are asking these questions, like, are we really safe in terms of our internal processes and NDAs and etc. The other question also is to think about whether not what are the right business processes to automate to use AI first, right? I think different companies will have many different ideas, but some processes are much easier to get started than others.
And so, Bruno, we also, I think we also intend to later on today give a short demo of a tool where some of these issues may pop up, right? Is that what
Yes,
you're hoping to get to? Yeah. So later on in the webinar today, we'll sort of we just created a small tool to demonstrate some of the capabilities and some of the questions, and hopefully some of these issues will come up during that discussion. So so then the question for us is, when we are using AI chatbots, what are the organizations missing? And Bruno, did you want to talk a little bit about what you think are some of the challenges here?
Yes. Yeah, so one question is consistency, so that the decisions that the AI is making or describing have traceable reasons, right? So you can understand, you can trace why did it decide to do that, and you can trace in your data and do some provenance and understand why that decision was made. I think that another specific thing are thinking about business-specific tools for AI agents to call. Not all businesses are the same, even folks doing the same on the same area, right, would have different business processes and different ways of dealing with things. So you probably want to have AI kind of specific to your particular case. And also regarding cost control, you hear horror stories of folks using cloud AI, and then they get this $100,000 bill in a day because AI went rogue and started making lots of queries. So that you want to make sure that your cost is controlled and you're not having to depend on something whose prices change and the models change and many things change, so that that you're not relying on a third party to have some fundamental part of your business.
So Bruno, on that note, can you talk a little bit about, I know we've been having a variety of conversations, but I think the group would like to hear perhaps that there are costs associated with using AI in many of these places, right? And if you were to sort of talk about what a simple way to get into AI, which is completely secure so that you're not sharing anything with anybody, what would be your suggestion for something like that?
Yeah, my suggestion would be to start with a simple AI box like a DGX Spark. Is about $4,000, and that's totally local. You're not throwing your data into the cloud, and you have full control of the behavior and how what the AI is doing, and it never leaves your premises. So that, and also it's not changing over time, because, for instance, you don't want to have a business process where tomorrow your provider decides that that model or that thing you're using no longer exists, and now we have to scramble to change everything. So that you have full control, it's local, it never leaves your premises.
So regarding that, my guess would be, my first reaction if I wasn't doing local deployment would have been that if I were to sort of want to have something like Gemini or Claude, even if I have a DGX Spark, does it require a lot of, do I have to build my own foundation model? Do I have to build a foundation model myself in order to do this? Or are there tools today that would allow me to deploy this very easily?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are a lot of open source code and open weight models that you can download. These are pretty simple to set up. You can use an AI chatbot to help you through the whole process. So it's easy to implement and deploy one. And we can also provide instructions on how to do it. Our students are very familiar with how this works, so they can also help set up this many different AI methods.
And there are many tools today that will allow, as well as many foundation models that allow you to do local large language model processing and interaction without the data ever leaving your premises. They're not as powerful, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, they're not as powerful, right, as $100,000 to $100,000 system that is on the cloud, but they work well for specific purposes, and that's what we are going to focus on.
And so the demo that you're
Mohit,
yes,
if I could interrupt, we have a couple of questions in the
Sure.
chat. When you say
Absolutely.
bot, what is a bot and how would we go about getting it? Like, are you just talking about, so we're not talking about something like Gemini or Claude,
We are not.
or we are when you say that?
We are not. So Gemini runs only on Google devices, right? What we are talking about is an open weight model, which is basically this whole foundation model. Many companies have released full information about how their models that you can actually deploy on your own machines and just interact with them without your data ever leaving the premises. And that's what Bruno was talking about. In our demo today, I think Bruno is intending to use something that runs in his garage on a machine. Is that correct, Bruno?
Yes, I'm using something that's at my home. It's in the laundry room and never leaves my home. Like the whole data, everything is just there. And it's something that you can just buy.
And where would you buy it? Are you going to talk about how we could get one?
Yes, I am going to talk about that. I sent a link on the chat, but we can also talk a bit about at the end how to get this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think that sort of gives you the framing under which we are sort of thinking about this. So we're undoubtedly you can, and there are mechanisms by which you can do the following as well. There are today routers available where you can say, well, my basic queries will stay within my premises, but some queries which our local models can't handle may have to go and get elevated to a service provider like Claude. And so there are mechanisms of that sort as well available. So you can sort of go into it to the extent you want. Now, I think a favorite thing today is AI coding tools. And I can say for myself, as a person who sort of, my area of research was optimization. We do a lot of algorithms. We do a lot of codes. I love to be able to use AI coding tools, but, and I'm sure Bruno uses AI coding tools as well. So Bruno, did you want to tell us a little bit about when you use these coding tools, what do you feel are some of the challenges and some of the questions that you'd like to bring up to the...
Yeah, that's a great question. So coding tools are amazing. If you have used them, it feels a bit magical, right? That you can create things just describing what you want. The one challenge to make a product that you rely on using these coding tools is to manage, right? To have something that you can maintain, expand, and have a way to track bugs efficiently, problems. So they tend to create this software, this AI coding tools tend to create software in a way that is kind of a big blob of things and divided into many parts, but it's not optimal for maintaining the code. So to use these tools, you really need to use them optimally. You really need to know how to ask them to do things in a way that is maintainable.
So to use Bruno's words, I think if you ask it to produce some code, it goes into its own stream of consciousness and dumps out thousands of lines of code for tasks that sometimes are very simple to execute. And then maintaining those codes and handling all sorts of issues on the back end can be a challenge in itself. Is that roughly what, Bruno, I think you're mentioning, right?
Yes, yes, that's one of the challenges.
Yeah, so you need mechanisms that will ensure that that code is maintainable, has somebody who has an oversight of it, who understands what it is doing, and it's not doing something that business processes were not intended to do. So I think that's a challenge, and I think this is a place where we're still evolving in our abilities to create the right systems. And I think this brings up another question, that not all types of things that AI is being used for today is it optimal for. Like, AI was not designed for all the tasks that are probably being thrown at it these days, just because the availability of these AI tools has been making that a question. So, Bruno, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Right, yes. So one big challenge is that these coding tools have a specific way to think about problems, and they tend to be either too simplistic or they tend to rely too much on other like AI kind of chatbots or LLMs to do tasks. And neither of these approaches are optimal for some business cases. So we have to be careful with them to not let them just think by themselves, because they need to understand what's the right approach for a business. So they need to be told that.
Yeah, so I mean, just as a simple example, if you were to try to find travel time to Chicago International Airport, I think most of us would go to Google Maps instead of going to Claude to ask what that travel time would be. Now, if you look at Google Maps, you probably don't know how to ask it a question where you know there is an impending snowstorm or something of that sort, how to incorporate that within its travel time predictions. Now, this is an opportunity where you can sort of try to blend the two tools. And I think some of that we will talk about time permitting, going into some of these discussions. Now, I wanted to quickly talk about the fact that it's, I think, one of the questions that keeps coming up in our discussions with enterprises, and we have quite a few of them as handling some of the centers at Purdue, is what are some of the places where people are using AI? Now, I think that list of potential opportunities where AI can be used is very large. I think it would, for us to try to cover that in this 1 hour, 15 minutes that we've allocated for this webinar, is probably not going to be possible. But we did want to point out some resources here that talk about some of these case studies. So TechPoint and Connexus have been building AI case studies and at least tracking some of the places where companies are using AI. Our centers have some information about past projects, and we'll give you some references to that as well, that give you some ideas of what even companies in Indiana are doing. Playgroundequipment.com is covered in some discussion on Google Gemini. It's one of the users and it's a business in Indiana that produces playground equipment and has been using Gemini for content scaling and things like that. And today, if you know, these are the types of things that people have used, or that these are the types of businesses who have sort of used these things, and you ask a chatbot for some details, they will give you references, they will get you to those places, and you can start to look into those case studies a lot more in detail. So for example, and we picked up some of these case studies in different areas. So Batesville Tool and Die has done something where their manufacturing setup uses machine vision to pick up parts, which are of different sizes and different types, and so they're able to use that. K1X and eGeneriering collaborated in creating something for processing K1 documents. So this is more in the accounting space. They needed things that would evolve as government rules and regulations change. Then Playground Equipment was sort of doing things on financial analysis, inventory tracking, and content scaling. So many places that are using these type of things, often the key parts, and we'll talk about some of the studies that say a few things about this, but human in the loop approach, where humans are sort of still responsible for certain parts of AI execution loops, and things of that nature are pretty crucial in these discussions. Now, I did want to quickly mention, if you look at Claude, it produces, Anthropic produces an economic report that talks about how people are using Claude. So I thought it would be useful for us to quickly get a sense of how they are seeing the use of their system. So as you would not probably be surprised if you have kids, that 6% or the highest usage of AI today is for homeworks. And I know as professors, we are spending a whole lot of time trying to detect which of these homeworks are done by AI and which ones are not. And that's a business in itself. But with that, Bruno, did you want to say something about what you see are places where AI is sort of being used extensively?
Yeah, I feel that, of course, for software development has been transformative. And working with companies, we see different levels of AI adoption. I feel a lot of companies are a little hesitant in that they don't trust AI, or they don't yet understand it fully to trust their processes to AI. So adoption has been in different levels for different companies. If you, for instance, working with Amazon, much higher adoption, right? They're pushing it to the next level of AI. So the work we do with them is really related to like the state-of-the-art AI. While working with other companies, it tends to be like slow adoption and testing the waters a bit.
All right. And so given the engagement with different companies, we find different levels of experience, engagement, and we sort of adapt our techniques and methods to those setups, right? Bruno, is that a fair statement?
Yes.
So I think from that perspective, people are asking, as you can see, medical questions are 2.1% of all queries to Claude, which is sort of interesting and probably a bit dangerous. But from there, we also wanted to talk about why AI often is not adopted, at least in, and this is consistent. U.S. Chamber of Commerce report also highlights some of the reasons. This is also what we find when we talk to companies. There is a lot of concern about quality of tools, consistency of reports, answers that they get that change with every time the question is asked, the cost of implementation, legal and compliance issues, which are pretty prominent in industries in some places, and data secrecy, I think, also appears to be one of the common things that gets raised. Now, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about whether AI is primarily for use for larger firms, or are SMEs in a position to actually use this. So going back to that conversation, Bruno, would you like to say a few words about how SMEs can dip their toes into pretty powerful AI, actually?
Yeah. So I feel that so there is a talk about frontier models, right? These models that nobody has access, and sometimes the U.S. government will stop people from using it. So for those models, it's not always necessary to choose those models for most tasks. Most tasks require kind of more specialized AI, and specifically when you're trying to build something that's reliable, it tends to be something that these smaller models can do, and these smaller models can run locally, as I was describing with the hardware we were discussing. So it a lot of the uses of AI are not frontier needed. Frontier models are not needed. You can use something simpler because it's more constrained. The AI has a very clear specific task. If the AI has a very vague task, you need a frontier model. If it has a more constrained task, these smaller models that you can do locally can work well.
So Bruno, you're basically talking about that if you have a specific task at hand, there may be better tools. So when frontier models were made, this idea of transformers, the idea of graph neural networks, the ideas of all these different types of structures that were built in order to make those foundation models. The foundation models are black box, but we know the components that are part of those black box, and those components are probably directly usable for smaller problems, and it opens up possibilities for companies to use them and deploy them on much smaller machines. So this is even better than the previous version that we were talking about, where you're trying to run a foundation model on a machine like a DGX Spark. But here we are talking about really build a transformer or build a small vision model or build a small GNN for solving a task at your hand. Is that what you're?
Yes, exactly. And there is now a entire support software to make this really easy to do. It's not that it's a research problem, will take years, and you have to have a lot of students, a lot of people working on it. It's actually pretty simple, something that can be done relatively quickly in some cases, and of course, if more advanced uses will require more time, right? But you can start small and then grow. But thinking about these different pieces of the AI that has been built, they can be tailored specific to some business applications, and they will do much better than something that's a frontier model that's not specialized on those tasks.
Yeah, so one general theme might be the following, and probably people aren't necessarily thinking about that, is that you can actually use the frontier models to help you create a more locally relevant model where you don't share information with them, but they help you code and use these tools that these frontier models are made up of for the business problem at your hand, right? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, exactly.
And so that opens up the possibilities significantly. I think one of the challenges that a lot of companies probably do face is the skills and competencies for these things are still relatively less distributed in the workplace. Is that how you would think of it as well, Bruno?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's becoming significantly more distributed.
And so we are interested in training students in these things. And I think for us, what becomes important is to have good problems where we can get students engaged on these things so that they can learn the skills. And that's part of the reason why Bruno sort of got into running the Foundry, and I got into sort of doing the Carnegie Center for Business Analytics.
Mohit,
So,
I think, can you reshare your screen because something happened? I'm not sure.
oh,
It
okay.
looks like a old TV that went.
Okay. Let me try this again. How about now?
Yeah, that works. Yes.
Okay. So
Oh no, it's back to not working.
Okay. Let me try to see if I can try to share again. Is that
No, yeah, now it's okay.
okay? Still okay?
Yeah, I'll let you know when it's not.
Okay. Okay. So
No,
so
it's
there's a
not.
lot of
It's bad again.
it's
Should
bad.
I share? I can share, and
Yeah.
then
If you can share, maybe that helps. Let's see.
let's see.
Well, while Bruno's trying to figure that out, it looks like we have a hand up. Mark, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I think what many of us on this call are trying to understand is we understand what Claude is. We understand what ChatGPT is because that's in the public domain. We get that piece. I think what the difficulty is, where do we go from there in the localized setting and to telling a lot of businesses, oh, well, you can build this. Well, they don't know how to build it. And if it's DGX Spark, I just looked at that. And even on the DGX Spark webpage, it's not clear what you do with it. So
Yeah.
there's a total disconnect with where we go from Claude to the medium ground of DGX Spark to a localized tool that we can use. There's a mile of uncharted understanding that people don't get.
Yes. So Mark, that's a great question. I think what just for a quick reference, even if you have your own laptop, right? And I do that on my own laptop. You can download something like Olama, which is a very simple tool that will allow you to then download a foundation model like a model from Quen or from
Gemma.
or Gemma, which is from Google. So Google has a foundation model that is sort of free. It's called Gemma. It is released by DeepMind. So you can download Quen or Gemma or Meta has another model. DeepSeek has another model. There are many models that you can choose from. You can just click and they will download. And they also provide you a chat interface that you can start working with. So this is the first easiest way in which you can even do it today on your laptop. And this is all local.
It will probably be very slow.
It will be very
depending
slow.
on your laptop, may not work
Exactly.
that well.
Exactly. So that's where Bruno suggested, I think, the DGX Spark, which gives you that power because it has a GPU in it. So it allows you to actually do the process that I just mentioned, but also have enough tokens per second or enough rate at which you start seeing the responses. That would be the first step.
So DGX Spark is that middle ground. That's what you're saying. I'm just trying to understand it.
It's a middle
if we
ground,
get-
yes. It's more,
Yes.
it's between kind of the cloud data center infrastructure and something you can do in your house, like in your laptop. It's something in the middle that's much more powerful. It's Linux based. It needs a lot more knowledge about systems, right? But it's something in the middle, and it's more professional grade reliability. Like it works all the time. It's 24/7. It's something that you can just leave turned on. But
And
for
it's all
that,
local.
usually you need someone
And it's
that
all
knows
local.
how to
Yes.
set up that system.
But
Yeah.
you have to, but what you just said is the important part. Even if you download it, which I could do, someone still needs to know what to do with it once you've downloaded it.
Yes.
Yes. And
And-
that's the
and that's
part
where-
that I was talking on the chat. At the end, we'll provide some links. I think so. In that sense, if our students can help in the middle ground, right? If you want the middle, if you want something that's faster, more professional, more reliable, that's the part where our students can help.
Yeah. And so so I think so from where we are, these are sort of, there is a whole set of things that you can sort of elevate towards higher and higher levels of productivity. At Purdue, I think, Bruno, your slides also went, so there must be something else going on. Because
Oh, really? Oh,
yes, yes.
okay. Then I'm not a solution.
It's probably Teams or something going on today. But maybe you can reshare your
Okay.
slides
I'll
and
reshare.
let's see how much we can work with. I hope the demo part works. Maybe we can switch to the demo
Okay.
and then come back and talk about these. So let me just say a few words about what we were planning to do for the demo, and that's all local. Everything is local here. Bruno, maybe I talk a
Oh, you
little
want
bit
to share
about
the Excel
yeah,
file? Yeah,
yeah,
share the
yeah.
Excel file first.
Just a quick thing. So, what we thought was we wanted to we sort of anticipated that there will be an interest in how we do these things locally. So one thing we did was just a quick tool we built over the last um, a couple of days, where what we did was the following. We said, let's build a tool that is agnostic to the particular data set that your company has. So we can actually upload to this tool any data set from any company and start to talk with this data set as if I wanted to know a little bit more about this, the data that I shared with this tool. And this is all running locally, so there's no call to Gemini, there's no call to Claude, there's nothing that is going on in this case. I wanted to show you one data set that we will use for the purpose of this demonstration, but it's agnostic to the data itself. So the one that we're going to use is something we just downloaded off of Kaggle, which is a data repository, and it consists of the following. So it's a retail store, which consists of the information that a retail store hopefully has. And this retail store has an online presence as well as.
Back to being messed up.
Oh, is it? Okay. So I don't know how we are going to do the demo then, because they can't see what you will share. But anyway, let me talk a little bit about the data. So it consists of customers, their locations, where are they in different parts. So their addresses are part of this database. Then the second part has what did they buy from us and how did they put a review. So one of the tabs of the sheet says each customer, what kinds of things they bought, and what were some of the reviews from those products. Then there is another part of this data set that talks about the different interactions that each customer has. So they went and saw this product, they went and saw this product on our online platform, and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of that information. Then there's some information on the support tickets they raised, the way they paid for their product, and the response that some campaigns had. So they had a Black Friday campaign and they sold certain things and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of information on this. And this is just an Excel sheet, which the AI tool that we are talking about did not know about at all before we start using it. So Bruno, maybe now let's see if you're shared.
Well, I'm gonna make a alternative version if with my camera if it doesn't work.
Okay.
So I'll do both. I don't know if it's I cannot see myself. Can you see the screen?
I can see the screen.
Okay. Let me know when it goes bad. So this Excel has different columns, right, and different customer product IDs, etc. And what this does is once you upload the Excel, this will essentially AI will connect the different fields on the different sheets of the Excel file. So customer reviews connect with transactions, transactions connect with customers, customers connect to customer reviews through the different fields. And it builds a graph based on this. And with this graph, now you have an AI agent where you can ask questions. So I'm going to ask a question here to the AI agent. What do customers like? And what the AI agent will do, it has never seen this data. It's not specialized. This is not a specialized AI for this data. Of course, when you make it more specialized, it gets better. But what it does is it calls a bunch of tools to understand the data and get access to your data and reason on top of this data, right? So we ask this question, it has never seen the data, it
So
tried
we
to
lost-
understand the data and then query it.
We lost the image. If you can unshare and share again, I think it lasts for a few seconds and then.
Okay, let me try.
So while Bruno is sharing, I think some part of this is the following, and he mentioned that it creates a graph. So essentially there are some tools, there is some code here that we wrote that would take an Excel file and create some kind of a database behind. It's called a graph database. That's not important, but that essentially allows different parts of the data set to link when different Excel sheets have common elements in their column. So for example, customer ID is common in this sheet and that sheet. It will connect the sheets in that way. And so now that we have that kind of a system, Bruno, maybe you can show them the run cipher, one of the run ciphers.
Right, I can show this. For instance, we are talking about which products do East Coast customers tend to like in the reviews more than West Coast customers, right? East versus West. And a new question. And then what the AI does is try to understand what are states in East Coast, what are states in the West Coast, what are the differences that I can find between these customers. So I'll give you an example. So the AI agent created this query on the database about the states in the East Coast and then states in the West Coast, and is trying to connect them to see the differences between the reviews that customers in East Coast versus West Coast will like.
Yeah. So the point here is that our data set did not contain this information about what are the East Coast states. So first thing that AI did here was to query what states are in your database. Then it tried to create a query and actually failed on one of the queries here. It tried to create a query trying to figure out which ones are East states and which ones are West states. Then once it has that information, it segregated, like if you look at toasters, it says there is this difference between toasters bought in the East Coast and those bought in the West Coast, and that there is a difference in rating. Now you might wonder, what is that difference in rating? And sure, this is not a very reliable result because there were only 4 reviews for this toaster from East Coast and only 1 review from the West Coast. So this is not really a difference between the coasts. But what the point is that this tool is sort of trying to figure out what is East Coast, what is West Coast, and how do I take my data set and separate the purchases from one side with the other, and how can I work with it? And I think Bruno could ask another question where he would say, what about if there were I want to limit it to those cases where you have at least a few reviews, more than 1 or 2, right? So he can do that, and then it will go back and start to separate that in that way. Now, I will mention the following. If you were to sort of put this data set, and I did, on something like Gemini or something like that, because this is a public database. And so the tools and even the frontier models do not produce the outputs that you're already seeing. because they don't understand what are the different parts of your data set. So they don't actually understand how these connections are, what is going on, and so on and so forth. And this is a very basic tool which does this. What we're trying to say, though, is that this is also still not reliable. So if Bruno was to ask the same question again, it is possible that it would give you a slightly different answer. Is that fair, Bruno?
Yeah, it could give a different answer, but the interesting thing is that because I've never seen this specific data set, but once you tailor it a bit more to that specific data set, the answers start becoming significantly more reliable. So you can think like what GPT has is something very generic, and it has to be very powerful because it's very generic. But once you specialize, you can use less powerful things and they become even more reliable and better.
And they also work on much lesser hardware, right?
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
and,
so I'm asking to limit the cases with more reviews.
right.
And then it uses all the chat, all the conversation we already have is used to make this further filtering.
And so what we are actually using at the back end, there is a foundation model. It is sort of the system that we talked about, which is like running on a DGX Spark or something of that sort. What it is doing is it's calling this model, which you see at the top of his screen, Quen 3.6. It's calling that model to generate the right kinds of queries on this database. So what this is doing is it's saying, don't invent data. We actually give specific instructions for not inventing any solutions from knowledge that it may have from elsewhere. Bruno, we also lost your screen again, so you may have to
Okay,
reshare.
I will reshare. At least
Yeah.
you can see the going with the camera has showing something.
Yeah. And so now it's limited the output to the places where there are at least a few reviews. So I think but what this is every single query is being run only on your data set, and the reported results are coming just from your data set. So they're not coming from somebody else's data that the LLM or the language model may have learned over the time.
Yeah, and it's also all local, and it's something that you can run at the enterprise. So the data never leaves my house. Yeah, so here's another question. How does the discounting affect average? How does discounting affect average transaction value? Do discounted items sell more volume but at lower margins? So this is a pretty complex question, right? You have to understand what are the discounts we gave, which is a different spreadsheet, right? And whether the discounts have any effect in selling more things or having more profit or lower profit. And what the AI does is does all these queries on our data sets to understand, and it shows here, for instance, a table with discount bucket, the transactions, and the average price. And then it says essentially gives a final summary here, bottom line, discount reduced per unit value by 3%, while boosting quantity by about 3%, meaning that there is not much, doesn't seem to have a big impact in profits, right? And you can ask, for instance, is this causal, I'm just typing with one hand, statement? Because essentially it's essentially giving us some correlation that is in the data, but it's not necessarily a causal statement, meaning maybe that the products that are discounted are things that would not sell otherwise, and therefore the discounts are helping, but in a correlation scenario, it doesn't seem like. And the model itself says that it's not a causal statement, it's just observational analysis.
And there may be issues with this analysis. For example, a very clear, simple business question may be, was the promotion time the same as the non-promotion time, and did it compare sales over a longer period of time when we did not have promotions with those over a shorter period of time? Questions like that would require us to sort of go into and see what queries it ran and what were the tools that were used. And I believe, given what I'm looking at here, and I haven't seen this output before, but it may not have actually tried to do a time-based comparison, and you may
Right.
need to add those kind of things to your
Yes. So
discussion.
both in terms of like since we understand our business better, right? We can then build tools to give to the AI agent to use, and the AI agent is going to get significantly better using those tools that are specific to our business with our business understanding. So instead of being something generic. For instance, this causal question here, we could have a tool that is causal, that is trying to make causal inference rather than just looking at correlations. We could have a tool that could use a time-based analysis, right? Holidays, etc., to be able to have a much better understanding, because we understand our business. We can add that in the tools, and the AI agent can call these tools to make those determinations, so it gets significantly better with more specialization into the tools.
So what, Bruno, if I may, what you're saying is the time is right for us to blend AI with traditional business knowledge, where traditional business knowledge is coded as tools that the AI can call in places where it doesn't know what it should do, or you can force it to call tools when it should not be doing things on its own.
Yes,
so that the orchestration
right.
works via the AI, but it is calling specific tools to get the data from your genuine databases. Is that roughly what you're trying to allude to?
Yes, that's exactly it. Also, the AI will tend to as we said earlier in the presentation, will tend to do simple things, right? And then your business may need something a bit more advanced, like more interesting for your data, and then those simple analysis. So then you create tools for that does that, and the AI understands what these tools are, and we call them at the appropriate places.
Right. So I think in some way we think of this as the orchestration between AI and your traditional business tools, and how one can leverage the other at the right point to address different types of things. And so I think, Bruno, we can move to perhaps the second part so that we can
Yes,
we can get some of this discussion on and maybe leave a few minutes for the questions that people may have. So your screen is frozen, but I will share. And then if mine freezes, please you share. Let's keep doing that.
Sure. Sure. I apologize. I never seen this problem before.
Yeah, I've never seen it either. So so the hardest
your
challenge.
screen is messed up. Oh no, it's good. Okay.
Okay. So the hardest challenges by category, in fact, the change of the organization that is required.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the change in the organization that is required for making for adopting the tools is often a big element of the process, and this is not a place where our.
Sorry, so I'm putting the slides on the chat. So if you open the chat, you'll see the slide that Mohit is on.
Yeah. And so data quality and architecture is another issue that I think is a very common issue. Process redesign, things of that nature are what are preventing a lot of these adoption strategies. What I think what Purdue has been sort of focused on is getting our students trained in many of these tasks, and depending on the type of project you have or the type of things you have, I think one of the things that is possible for us to do is deploy project teams that can help you on those aspects. And I think that's one of the places where we see universities and businesses have actually now perhaps the best time for collaborating on these aspects, because there are certainly things that there's some skills and relevance that is new, uh, and our students are getting trained on those things. But business problems, unless they are applying these on genuine business problems, I think this question remains uh, uh, a place where they don't get genuine experience, and we can't, and the businesses can also get help because they can deploy these type of tools. So just as a quick note, we were going to talk about a couple of different things that our students and our projects have done. This is, I'll just very briefly talk about that because I think it will be useful for us to take questions.
Let me, Mohit, it's messed
Yes.
up again. So let me share the slides, and then you can
Yes.
tell us which slide you are at, and then that may be better. Let me put the slides on the chat if it works. It doesn't work. I cannot add anything here. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I'll post.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it like this and see what happens. And so, so here is a project that our students did, trying to understand how a very prominent client of ours, Fortune 500 company, stacked against, and because of NDA and other reasons, we do not talk about which the client was, and how they stacked against some of their competitors in terms of AI adoption, and where they were, so that they could sort of understand what are some of their places where more opportunities exist, and they could adopt those things. And here are some leading capabilities in that space we can talk about. Then this is a project that Bruno and I have been sort of working on. We've been building a system for AI for logistics. And Bruno, do you want to talk a few minutes about what the vision for this is?
Yes. So there is a standard pipeline for AI for logistics. The challenge is that it doesn't account for all the complexity in the real world. It oversimplifies a problem and then solves with standard tools. And what we want to do is to use AI to be able to take the full complexity of the problem, so that the solutions are way better than what we have today.
And so we are trying to blend the same ideas that we talked about. We are trying to blend. So often forecasting models use things like ARIMA for logistics. Decisions about different types of packages going in different parts use integer and linear programming. These are well-established tools used for a variety of different things. AI can supplement some of these things by adding new tools to that system. So we sort of want our AI system to be able to say, learn about unseen routes from routes it has seen from the previous data. We want it to understand things like what we mentioned before. When a storm occurs at a place, even if it is on a different day, it may contain information about the delays that occur around that. And so it can pull out information of that sort. So AI is helping us pull out those kind of information, and we wanted to blend with some traditional tools to create a system that would be more performant than traditional systems. And we find that we are able to do better than existing even AI systems when we take this methodology, and we are able to predict when packages get delivered better. We are able to predict what is the probability they get delivered. Can we guarantee service levels? All those kind of things we are able to do. I will actually, I think we can probably stop here, and I'll just leave this on, and I would like to open this up for questions more on.
It's
different
black
things.
now, Mohit. Could you leave that slide on? Like,
Yeah, I'm going to try to leave that on again.
I
So
can also put it here.
yeah, I will pull out this slide, which talks about ways in which at least Purdue, Carnegie Center, and AI Forge, AI Foundry can collaborate with enterprises. And there are a few QR codes. Hopefully you can see those. And that will get you in touch with our managing director at the center. If you just look at that QR code, it should give you their email. Otherwise, you can look at our websites. But we do student projects and research level engagements, and we can certainly talk more about your specific case if you have an interest in that.
Yeah.
But that's
And
just for that.
Just to emphasize, the student project and the research level are different things. So the student projects are more related to, well, say, oh, I want to have the DGX Spark. I don't know how to set up, how to use in my business. Well, let's do a student project to help get that started. That's more on that. Right, Mohit?
Yes. And we can do all sorts of change management projects. We do projects on, I mean, this is sort of a continuum of projects. Some projects become a lot more extensive. There are also projects where students have sort of built systems around these things. But research level engagements are things where we are actually pushing the frontier. AI for logistics is one of those spaces. So the two projects that we sort of listed, one was a student project where we were doing comparisons to figure out where the company was in its landscape of adoption. Why that was a student project, while AI for logistics, where we are using extensive research level tools, is more of a research level engagement. So with that, I think maybe we conclude and take questions.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys both for that presentation, and I apologize for the technical mishaps. I've never seen that before. And I was actually asking Chat GPT furiously what's causing this, and I wasn't able to get an answer. So AI can't solve all our problems just yet. But does anybody have any more questions? Now's the time. Either raise your hand or just click open your mic and ask some questions.
Or if there is a part that you would like us to more elaborate on, we are happy to do that as well.
So no questions?
Scott, I've got one.
Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
I like the discussion of logistics and using AI to help with logistics and flows. You know, what we do is exporting. So when you get into exporting, there's a whole nother field of questions, export documentation, commercial invoices, being paid in another currency, foreign regulations, U.S. export controls. And I'm probably showing my ignorance in this field, but is there an AI local model offered, or something like DGX that could build something like that, an AI model that could help a company with its international logistics?
So if I may, I think the question has various parts to this. So whether there is an existing tool that does this, I don't think I'm aware of anything. Bruno, are you aware of anything in that space?
Not that specific, no.
Yeah, so I do not believe there is an existing tool. The idea for us was primarily to think of these problems where AI and traditional tools can sort of merge. So some of your business processes are probably for these. So often when you're talking about logistics across borders, you're dealing with customs, you're dealing with multimodal transports, you're dealing with all sorts of other types of questions. And I think it is useful to narrow down to say, let's say we're going to tackle this part of the problem, and then blend AI tools with the kinds of things we do. And if there is good data, then that I think becomes a problem where either our students can sort of do the first round of exploration, which would be a student project, and then we could sort of look into if the challenges are not surmountable by simple solutions, then I think it gets into research questions, and that's how we would sort of think about it. But I don't think there is existing tools. I think this is where the AI field is evolving towards, which is that can you use those foundation models within that business process, augment it with the existing business processes, and package it all together so that it can function reliably in your atmosphere.
And one thing that I think it's important, like in the past, one would hire an intern, right, to do data analysis or go through all the data about some regulations of some country, etc. Here, what I find interesting, like having a student to have an AI agent that will do that automatically, right? Create a small product, test case to see like how useful that is. And that is something that can be used for many, many things. I think for many different countries, right, it's not this one work of the student, is more like it's building some product, AI product that can be used.
Okay.
And I think each problem has its own space where we can do this. I think one of the examples we used was K1X and engineering. They were also sort of building 3 tools to process the K1 documents, which were sort of not well labeled, and sort of finding good labels for them. And that was a project that they executed. And what that did, for them at least, was that this April deadline, when the K1s are supposed to be distributed, was something they would often miss, and they were able to achieve that a lot better with these additional tools, making some of those processes much faster.
All right, great. Any other questions? Anyone?
Well, Scott,
All right,
and professors, I just want to say thank you. This has been excellent. And maybe there could be a follow-up webinar of maybe some of the case studies that have been gathered as a result of this webinar, if the companies would allow that to kind of show what was able to be done for them. That would be fantastic, especially if it involves exporting and export regulations or something with foreign markets. That's just a selfish request, but thank you for your time. It's been very helpful.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if we don't have any further questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. But again, Mohit and Bruno, thank you so much for, actually, we just had a question pop up in the chat. How do you measure ROI on ROI projects?
Yeah, so we had a slide on how different people are sort of thinking about measuring ROI, which we sort of glossed over a little bit in the interest of time. There are various mechanisms by which there are various ROI frameworks that people are using to defend the capital that they are investing. There is a report from MIT that says 95% of what people have invested in has not resulted in a benefit, and so on and so forth. But I think the questions about ROI are similar to how you would do an ROI on any project, like a financial understanding of how it is benefiting. But there is a relevant notion here. This is the notion of productivity J-curve that often is used to explain what is happening currently with AI. When AI is being brought into the organization, you often have to think about processes somewhat differently. You have to invest in a variety of architectures, and so you on the lower part of that J curve before the exponential growth. And so, so I think there are some frameworks that we point to in our slides, but I think this is still being debated and being discussed in the literature on exactly how one should be measuring ROI for this. But it is clear that there will be a phase of investment before you actually start seeing gains.
All right. Well, again, thanks to everybody. I think I'm going to end the chat now. I'm going to end the recording. I appreciate everyone coming in today. And again, thank you, Mohit and Bruno, for this presentation today.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Okay, bye.